Good morning. I'm Dottie Gandy. Welcome to Unity Church of Dallas, where we are free of judgment, full of sunshine finally, full of love, and today we are so full of kindness.
And I'm Katie King, and I believe we should start with our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power active in the life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. Now, we're going to take about 30 seconds to greet each other. You're welcome to stay seated, or you may jump up and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, or a high five.
Right, you gave them
Going too far.
Morning, straight. Morning there, girl. So proud of you. Oh, I know you don't like that.
I know.
Yeah, you don't like that. You never heard. A lot of girls like that. A lot of girls like that.
Getting around these mics.
Last night he really related to last night. Yeah, I could feel that.
She does know there's 5 seats here that she takes from.
Yeah, Cheryl always.
It is such a happy sight to see all the love in this room. It really, really is. And if you want to continue to stand, we're going to sing the Ken Sutherland song, Be the Love You Are.
Appropriate is that? Oh, thank you guys. I'm so glad we've got more music now here all the time. Oh, and they're just wonderful. I'm Billy, and I'm your chaplain for this morning. And I don't want to forget to tell you, in case you're interested or have a special prayer request that you didn't get put in there, that I will be waiting for you by the chapel. I'm going to walk out with James this morning so I can be sure and be there on time. So let's have the daily word, my story. Together, my story. I mentor others by sharing spiritual lessons I have learned. And here's our prayer box that if we've forgotten to put anything in, we can do it at this time as well. Otherwise, they are prayed with, not for, with, because we know that we are in together in this thing, and in the field, in together in the field that we call our Christ consciousness. So let's get into a space of the quantum physics field, for we are so grateful that we are knowing now how much the physics of prayer, the reality of spiritual prayer and the spiritual life are meeting together in oneness, as unity has been a lesson in oneness for 100 years. So we say thank you, sweet Spirit, that all is well. Everything is purposeful, and therefore, even if it doesn't seem that way at the time, everything is good. For this we are centered and poised, calling it our Christ consciousness. And it is in that name of the Christ that we say thank you and amen. If you would join me in the prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, Father, Mother, God.
Good morning. Be the love you are, and we are, and we are. My name is James Buchanan. I am the senior minister here at Unity Dallas.
And I'm Tyler Bell.
No, it's got to be, and I'm Tyler Bell. Well, good morning. It's so nice to see everybody today, and we wanted to come up and say, start the day with a very special thank you to the Divine Sisters, who not only do we know how to put on a concert around here, but we also know how to put on a party and a baby shower, and that was an amazing baby shower. So thank you so much.
So much.
I mean, the presents were pretty good. They were really good.
Yes.
But it was the outpouring, which helps us out a lot, thank you, but the outpouring of love that we experienced last week at the baby shower is so much that energy that's undescribable, and it's why we gather here. It's what makes church the most relevant, in my opinion, so thank you so much. And especially talking about love, I see that this may be the last Sunday that we get to love up on these bears. And so David, just grab one right there. Thank you. Okay, we're going to put the intention. And that's a bear, otherwise known as a seal, right there. And for those of you for the first time, you're like, what are we doing with these stuffed critters next to me? And you're not talking about your partner, you're talking about the bears here. And but then actually I met Faith back there. Faith, you got to stand up, girl. Stand up back there. Okay, so this is Faith. And Faith actually was adopted because of an advocacy group just like the ones that we are supporting with these animals that are helping children that have been, well, in a pretty tough way. So thank you, Faith, for showing up. And she already sat down, but give her a hand. Thank you so much. Betty Keene is her aunt, I believe, if I have that right. And so there's that, and then there's also something else we wanted to show you. Hold on, let me just pull it out. I just happen to have one that fits perfectly right here. And so we had been going back and forth talking about the new, you may have noticed, the new program, the new bulletin here. Everybody's kind of looking at it, wondering what this is, and this piece of paper falls out very easily, so you got to watch that. And we had been talking about back and forth for about 2 months, some ideas, and I have lots of ideas, and the fact that Tyler can actually understand them, and then so you can guess who designed this when you saw it, right? You knew who designed it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this and what makes it special?
Okay, so thank you for looking at your new program/bulletin. And the idea is that this is going to be a lot more concise than the old one, so you get the news in little snippets and just highlights, things that you're interested in. And then we actually advocate that you go to the website to learn more. We have a lot of events also posted on Facebook, but the little piece of paper in the middle, that's where you get to write your notes. And that's where you also get to see how to follow us on social media, but then you can take it home and put it on your fridge. The other side has all of our ongoing groups, classes, etc. So you won't miss anything.
I especially love this part, doodles. So put your doodles. If the talk gets boring, which it definitely won't today, I can promise you, you can always draw stick figures or something on there. So, well, thank you so much for designing this. It's outstanding. And one more question for you. Oh, yes, thank you. And she comes up with the neatest Unity Pulse. The Unity Pulse right there and all these little captions. Oh, and by the way, this is not a typo or a grammar mistake with the one quote. I learned that we call that a graphic element?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a graphic element.
It's a graphic
It
element.
opens the whole page up.
Yeah. So you can tell people that. And also, the other genius behind this is that, men, you can put this in your suit pocket right here. And so when you go out to lunch today, everybody's going to be like, who is that guy? Who is that? And I just decided that David would be the model every Sunday and go on the front of it. And speaking of David, let me let you hold that because my hands are going to start flailing now. Did we have talent in this house last night or what? Woo! I was hoarse from yelling bravo so much and woo and those type of things. We had 13 soloists besides David, and they were each one of them were amazing. And where did she go? Okay. They were all amazing. I won't hit you. But the incredible thing was, so 20 singers in all. And the incredible thing was that the music ranged from country all the way to opera and everything in between, including that Broadway hit classic called If You Love Me, Stop Feeding Me. Did I get that right? Is it close? Please don't feed me? Love me, please don't feed me. And everybody here left last night saying, oh, I want to learn to sing now. We were so inspired. And we're going to be inspired by David Friedman today. He's done just about everything possible that you can do in music, I think. From writing and composing Broadway and theater and film composing. He's also an incredible vocal coach, if you've ever thought about learning to sing. He's also a metaphysician. If you pick up any of his books out there, you'll see that he understands what we talk about at Unity. And it's absolutely all heart. He also wrote for a lot of singers that you've heard of. From Barry Manilow all the way to one of my favorite singers that was on the list of people that he's written songs for was Alison Krauss. And we heard the song last night, Let Me Live. There is, like I said, there is life. And if you like Alison Krauss, that was amazing. Let me ask you something. Is there ever a singer that, you were going to write for, but it didn't happen?
Was there ever? Oh, my goodness.
What's the singer that got away that you just said this?
Oh, listen, Barbara Streisand, I've written things for her. I'd love her to sing something of mine.
Barbara Streisand.
Yeah.
You wrote a song for Barbara Streisand,
Yep.
and then she didn't. But,
Yeah. Who
well,
knows
it's
if
her
she even
loss.
heard it. Well,
It's her
fine,
loss.
I agree.
I was talking to the band earlier about this fact that David took last night these singers. Okay, so 13 soloists. He had only worked with a few of them before. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. He had never worked with the other ones, so they had to, like yesterday, pull it together. And it was very animated and not easy lyrics. So that was incredibly impressive to me. And somebody said, the drummer is rich, by the way. The drummer is rich. And I was like, he's rich? Really? What? How does that come up in conversation? I mean, what are we talking about here? But your name is Rich, so okay. But David, I just, the thing more than anything, like I said last night, and by the way, I think my introduction was about 30 minutes last night. It's only a couple today. The thing about David that I love the most is that he is all heart, and you're going to see that today. He's real. And so be prepared to have some laughter, some inspiration, and some kind tears. So come on up, David Friedman. Thank you. And David, before you play for us, because you're about to play what I said was my favorite song until last night. Now I don't know what my favorite song is, but you're going to play one of my favorite songs. We would be absolutely remiss if we did not, first of all, thank all the Unity staff and volunteers that helped put this show on last night. Phenomenal. It takes a whole lot of effort to do this. I mean, millions of emails, and nobody knows that more than the point person, the absolute point person for the project. And would you come up here, Deborah Bryant? Come on up here, girl. You have flowers. Are we full of surprises? Yes, we are. How is your heart feeling right now?
Oh, just full and blooming. Thank you.
Well, we'll hear more from you about what's on the horizon for all the talent that we have here. So thank you again, and one more round of applause for these guys. Thank you.
When someone asks me, what is a metaphysician? I say the definition of metaphysician is what every Jewish mother wishes their daughter had done. These are the jokes. Well, it's funny because last night, they said, well, you're here late, and I was the last one out. And Sean likes to say that the difference between a Jew and a Gentile leaving a party is a Gentile leaves and doesn't say goodbye, and a Jew says goodbye and doesn't leave. So I was just blabbing. So today, I wrote the word down right here and have it in my pocket all the time, connection. This is the year of connection. And so I would like to sing and talk about perhaps the greatest way in which we can all connect. So many things we can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. Everyone wants to make things right. So what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hand. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it, you and I, do or die. We've got to try to get along. We can be kind, we can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be
Okay. So, kindness is really extremely dear to my heart because kindness is something that we can be no matter what. It's a choice that we can make no matter what the situation. No matter how we feel, we can be kind. We can be angry at someone, and we can be kind. Sometimes someone asks us for something that we can't give them, but we can be kind. We can disagree on politics or on style, but we can be kind. I was reminded this morning in the first service that my partner, Sean, who was here a few weeks ago, he, during Lent, asks everybody to not gossip, complain, or criticize during Lent. And so, yeah, fun, isn't it? Yeah, what are you going to talk about? That's actually one of my favorite lines. I never repeat gossip, so listen very carefully the first time. But so Sean got up on the third day of Lent, and he said, this is the third day of Lent, and I have not gossiped, complained, or criticized, except for one hairdo I could not let go by. So it's a challenge to do that. But we can be kind no matter what the circumstance. And there's a phrase that I love that says, say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. And so there are ways to be definite and be kind. And so last spring, I have a book about how couples met that was supposed to come out, and it was delayed for just technical reasons. And so my publisher said, you got anything else? And I didn't, but God did. So I did what I always do when I write. I opened up and said, where's the divine idea? And I suddenly realized this song has been around the world. This song has raised funds for charities. It's been the theme song for Duke Children's Hospital. It's done all sorts of things, and it's well known. And so I thought, write a book, and each line of it, each chapter is one line from the song. And then under that chapter heading, I put stories that happened to me, essays, ideas about that subject, whether it's so many things we can't control, or whether it's not enough to talk about it, or we all need the same thing. And then I have a section in each chapter where it gives suggestions as to how you can be kind to other people, but more importantly, there's another section that says how we can be kind to ourselves, because that's what we often forget. And the fact is that kindness is something that happens inside of ourselves. Now, one of the ways in which I came to that, At the same time that book came out, another book came out called It's All Inside. I do this work called Thought Exchange, which I wouldn't say I created it, but it created me, which is the way everything happens. I don't do anything. I don't write songs. I don't whatever. I just open and see what's meant to come through me. And in Thought Exchange, I was asked to take over a workshop at Unity of New York, a singer's workshop, an artist workshop, an artist support circle. So I went in and there were artists supporting each other, sitting in a circle, that's what it was, and they were doing affirmations. And I kind of went, we all know that positive thoughts lead to a positive life. We all know that we need to think positively. And my thought was, how come we don't do it? How come we do it for a minute and then we stop and then we lose track of it? And I thought, we're not stupid. We're not lazy. We really are, people who are passionate about our growth, and we can't do it. So I began to explore in these workshops why that is. What is the missing piece? And what I realized, what I came to, is that it is not the negative thoughts that make us uncomfortable. It is the positive thoughts. And that was obvious because we so quickly move to the negative thoughts. It's so easy for us to do that. And the positive ones, we feel like, I'm holding this. And I thought, why is that? What I came to understand was, if we have something traumatic or disturbing happen to us that's associated with a positive thought, so let's say, you were a child and you said, I can do this, and someone slapped you across the face and said, you cannot. Anytime you take on the thought, I can do this, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel that threat of being slapped. Now, as a child, our only object is to get away from that sensation. So what we find that if the thought, I can do this, creates an uncomfortable sensation, then we take on the thought immediately, I can't do this, and that protects us. So I don't call these negative thoughts. They're protective thoughts. In fact, I wrote a whole book called The Healing Power of Negative Thoughts and Uncomfortable Sensations. Stop being afraid of them and start learning to use them to heal. So we get these uncomfortable sensations when we take on the positive thought. And so what I teach people to do in the workshop we're going to do this afternoon is people bring up a problem that they have, and you don't have to talk in the workshop. You get as much out of it whether you talk or not. And you bring up a problem, and we say, what are you seeing in front of you? And what you're seeing is a mirror of your thoughts. So if you want something and you're seeing it's impossible, you're going to find you're thinking it's impossible. So we find out what thought you're actually holding. Then I ask you to exchange that thought for the thought you want to hold. And the interesting thing that happens is, when you take on that new thought, the next question I ask, which is the crucial question, is, where do you feel uncomfortable? And so, for instance, I'm up here talking and singing. You think I don't feel uncomfortable? But I want to talk and sing. And if David Friedman wants to talk and sing with David Friedman's body, David Friedman's neck has to hurt, David Friedman has to shake, his heart has to pound, he has all those things. That's the sensation that I have when I get up in front of people. So I stand in the wings and I go, all right, heart pounding, hands shaking, to all systems go. So I told the story this morning. Lucy Arnaz works with me on Thought Exchange, and we also perform a lot. And I was winning a Lifetime Achievement Award, and she was presenting it to me. And so we're both backstage, nervously pacing the floor. She has to go out and, expound on my virtues for 5 minutes, and then I have to go out and be an award winner, whatever that is. And so she stopped, and she said, all right, what are my sensations? She said, my throat is tight, my stomach is churning, and my hands are shaking. And just as she said that, the announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, won't you welcome the one, the only, the magnificent Miss Lucy Arnaz. And she looked at me and went, I can go out there with that. And so I ask people when they say, I want to be famous or successful, are you willing to be that uncomfortable? It's just uncomfortable. Oprah Winfrey is not comfortable. I remember asking Barbra Streisand's manager, is Barbara happy being on tour? And he said, David, happy is not a word we ever associate with Miss Streisand. Now, she's the biggest star in the world. Everyone aspires to be Barbra Streisand. But Barbra Streisand can be Barbra Streisand because with all of her anxiety, of which she has a lot, and all of her fear, she is willing to be Barbra Streisand. She is willing to go out there and do that. So I teach people, if you really want, the mistake we make is we think we're supposed to be comfortable. We're not. We're supposed to hold the thoughts we want and feel however we feel when we do that. So how does this have to do with kindness? Well, what I realized is if this is all about our sensations, the world is, let me rephrase that. When I wrote this book, it's called It's All Inside, they asked me to write a third book of exercises of thought exchange, going from beginning to end. And when I began to put the exercises in order so that people could just pick up the book, do exercise 1, and take themselves all the way through thought exchange, I realized that one cannot be with one's sensations, especially one's frightening ones, if one thinks that they are in some sort of danger, which they thought they were when they were younger. So we have to be positioned in the truth of who we really are. And who we really are is an invisible consciousness located nowhere, observing sensations, thoughts, bodies, and stuff that appears to be out here. All we are is that observing consciousness. I like to say, I can't even prove that you're out here. I know that I see you, but I could be dreaming, and you'd be out there. And people say, isn't that lonely that, there's no one out there? And I go, not at all. You're all in here. I experience you in here. That's the only place we can ever experience anything. The only place anything is ever happening is in the world of our thoughts and sensations. So when we understand that everything is happening inside of us and only inside of us, and I said this in the concert last night, Sean likes to say, don't you just hate it when people you can't stand have friends? How could that be? That's a terrible person. And someone says, terrible person? They're the most wonderful person I've ever. Neither is true. All we're seeing when we're judging someone is ourselves. We're seeing our own thoughts. Sean and I have a rule in our relationship. You are never allowed to attribute motive to the other person. Someone says something, and I can say, Sean, when you said that, I felt this, but I can never say, you said that because you want, I have no idea why he said it, unless I ask him. And so everything that we see in the world, when we understand that the only place to work is inside of ourselves, in what thought are we holding? And our thoughts, we're grabbing for thoughts constantly to run away from sensations. And so we're constantly at the effect of sensations. So I would go, wow, I'm walking to the stage, I feel uncomfortable. That means I can't go on the stage, so I won't go on the stage. And then I want to, as opposed to our thoughts ruling. But if we want to choose thoughts, we have to be willing to be with the unbidden sensations that come with those thoughts. So once we understand that everything is going on inside of us and that the world is only a mirror of what we're thinking, then we can start to know that kindness is about what's going on inside of us. It's about the world that we're creating by being kind. And the book is called We Can Be Kind, Healing Our World One Kindness at a Time. And our world, this is not my world. This is my world. How I take all this in, how I experience it. And it's been a very interesting journey with this book because it's 3 months old and it's in its 5th printing. And the reason for that is people buy 10 and 20 of them because everyone who they want to know about this, they just slip them that book. And I'd like to see it in every bathroom in America. That's why. And so kindness is not a chore. We're not depriving ourselves of anything by being kind. We're not going, oh, God, I got to be nice to that person now. It's such a... It is something that we do for ourselves. I really learned this years ago. At Christmas time, kids write letters, Santa Claus, North Pole, and drop them in the mailbox, and they end up at your post office, and you can go down and be Santa Claus for a kid. You just pick up a letter and you fulfill it. And so one year, it was right after the World Trade Center happened, I went down and I found a letter from this third grader, this girl, and she wrote, I feel so bad even asking for anything because some of my friends lost their parents in the World Trade Center and some children don't have parents, but Santa, if you could, I would like chapter books. I didn't know what chapter books were. Apparently it's a big third grade thing when you go from Dick and Jane to chapters. So, and I would like a bear and some things for my computer. So I thought, I'm going all out here. So I went to Barnes & Noble, and I asked about chapter books, and they gave me a few chapter books that kids of that age would like, and a kid of that age, yes. And then I went to Toys R Us, and I bought a bear bigger than me. I just bought this gigantic bear. And then I went to Kmart and got a $300 gift certificate. And I made this stationery that said, red paper, Santa Claus, North Pole. And I said, dear, I don't even remember her name, I hope you like this bear, and here are some chapter books that I thought you'd enjoy, and I wanted to make sure you got exactly what you wanted for your computer, so go with your mommy and daddy down to the store, and you can pick out what you want. Remember, dreams do come true. Love, Santa. And I went to the mailbox, etc., and they mail it for half price if you're doing it for this. It's part of their contribution to it. And I sent it off. I will never meet this child. That child doesn't know who I am. And I noticed that after I did that, I felt so wonderful. But when I examined it, I didn't feel wonderful because of how magnanimous I was. I felt wonderful because I lived in a world where a dream of mine that I had no idea how it could possibly be fulfilled, could be fulfilled by someone I never met, in some way I never heard of, out of thin air. Why did I live in that world? Because I created that world inside of me. So there's something, if I can think it, anybody could be thinking it. If I could go to that, someone out there could go to that. And so I found the more that I concern myself with my inner sense of kindness, the more I experience those kindnesses, because I'm just looking. Everything is in the world. Every infinite possibility exists, and it's where I look. It's how open to it I am. We're doing an Edwin Gaines course in Connecticut in our church, and so we're really looking at our thoughts. And Sean may be a minister, but he ain't always positive, I'll tell you that. And in fact, after church, we used to go out to lunch, and then he'd come home with me. And, church, it's stressful. It's a lot of work. You're on. And about 3 o'clock, I'd look at him and go, honey, that spiritual principle that you were so brilliantly and eloquently expounding on this morning on the pulpit, I'm not really seeing it in action at the moment. Tyler knows, yes. And he would usually answer me with something that I really can't say on the stage of a church. So, but so one day, we have 3 adorable cats, and Sean just loves them. And one day he was trying to open a new box of litter, and he was having trouble opening it. And he yelled from the bathroom, "It is impossible to open this box of litter." And I said, could you take on the thought that it is easy to open this box? And he said, it isn't, it's impossible. I said, could you take on the thought that it's easy to open this box? He said, okay, fine, it's easy to open this box. And I walked into the bathroom and went, here, it goes like this. And so the minute he was willing to have it be easy, something came in me that just did it. So the interesting thing is, you see, if everything is inside, when we understand that, when we practice kindness, we see that we live in one world. We are all, when they say we are one, we are not one in personalities. We're all different personalities. Where we are one is that we are all the invisible, infinite observer from the same place. And I've told it this morning, it's my favorite joke. But the rabbi and the priest who are in chambers, and they're talking about spirituality, and the rabbi looks up and says, I am nothing. And the priest looks up and says, I am nothing. And the janitor is walking by and he hears them and he says, I am nothing. And the rabbi and the priest say, oh, look now who thinks he's nothing. So it's kind of impossible to wrap your mind around I'm nothing. I mean, I once said to Kathy Lee Gifford, I said, I can't even prove that you're here. And she said, I'm here, believe me. So it's very difficult to get our mind around that. But when we do get our mind around the notion that we are an invisible consciousness located nowhere with no physicality, you know, when you mentioned the quantum field, that is where we actually live. And in the quantum field, it's not about the physical world. Things just move instantly. You know, I said, think of your house, think of it as red, now think of it as blue. There it is. In the quantum field, it's there. No painting, no whatever. Then it figures itself out. So we are one. We live in one world. There is no you and me. There is only you in me. There is only you as I hold you, and that is my choice. I can only make the choice, though, if I can experience the discomfort. Like the discomfort, one of the most uncomfortable things in the world is forgiveness. Why? Because what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is looking at someone, you did this is how it happened, this is how I felt, this is what I thought, here we are. It's just the way it is. There's nothing to do, nothing to it now. What choices would you like to make? Would you like to sit and be angry with, you know, resent, the word resent, re means again, and sentire means to feel. So someone hits me on the arm. This is me resenting it. I'm refeeling it. I'm doing it again. So there's one world. No you and me, you in me. There's no God and me. There's God in me. I do not ever pray to God for anything. Why should I? God's given it all to me already. God is not sitting there going, well, maybe I'll give you this, maybe I won't. Let's see. Sacrifice a lamb to me, and I'll give it to you. What I pray for is my willingness, my openness to expand, to open to God. When I write a song, I don't write songs. I open to them. The first thought that I have whenever I've written 100 songs for the Today Show on assignment. Every time I get the assignment, my first thought is, I can't write this. Then I open, feel the uncomfortable sensation, and it writes me. So I pray to be able to open enough to accept what has to be there. But in order to do that, I have to feel the discomfort of opening that much, because at times in certain areas of my life, when I opened in the physical world, I got hurt. And so I have to be willing to go, I know this is here. There is only God in me. God is available to me. So this leads me to, there is not me and the church. I am the church. And, you know, I have been so impressed by the way this church functions, because you people know that you are the church. Now, I wanted to read a story from the book, and this is a story of how our church transformed. Our church was in trouble years ago, as churches can be. The finances were down, the attendance was down, people were angry at each other, people were fighting. And so Sean went on a 3-month sabbatical to our home in Florida. And I said, great, you're going to be in Florida, I'll visit you. He said, no, not so much. It was like, no, I'll tell you when you can come down. This is my sabbatical. And he really thought about it. And when he came back, he realized, I'm giving the church back to the community who owns the church. This is not my church. You are the church. This church is not this building. This church is us.
Amen.
That's right. Yep. And so this story is called Ask Not What Your Country Can Do for You, but What You Can Do for Your Country. A number of years ago, when our small Unity church in Connecticut seemed to be in trouble, our minister, my partner Sean, decided to apply John F. Kennedy's famous inaugural words to the congregation. Our church had hit a patch where we seemed to be in financial trouble. Reverend Sean was aware that when a church, or any organization for that matter, hits financial difficulty, it's often because the members of the community have failed to recognize their connectedness and their power. When this happens in a church, it often shows up as a lack of funds, as the congregation not increasing because when new people come they don't feel welcomed, or as people falling away from the congregation because in thinking of the church as a place that's supposed to do something for them, they're feeling disappointed. To work on the issues the church was having, Reverend Sean called a town meeting at which the congregation was asked to voice ideas as to how the church could expand, be more fiscally independent, and most of all, function as a community in which the congregation took charge of its own welfare. There were 4 parts to this meeting. In the first part, people were asked to take an inventory of what they liked in the church. So that everyone would get a chance to speak, they each had 2 minutes to list everything the church already had that they liked. When a store takes inventory, it catalogs what it has on the shelves, and in storage, it does not catalog what it doesn't have. So it was very important that people look and say, what's here? First, Sean wanted a list of what the church had, what was working, what people came to church for. He wrote all these down on a whiteboard so we could all see them. In the second part, people were asked to voice any complaints they had about the church. There was a very specific way in which they were asked to do this. Rather than complaining, they were asked to list what they would like to see in the church that they didn't see there now. In this way, the comments were made in a positive way that emphasized infinite possibility as opposed to lack. And I was saying this morning, Mother Teresa used to say, I would never go to an anti-war rally. I would go to a pro-peace rally. But an anti-war rally requires that there's a war, and so you would keep war going by that. So people were listing what they wanted to see. Again, Reverend Sean wrote down the entire list of things the congregation would like to see in the church. In the third part, people were asked for suggestions as to how the community might manifest the things the congregation had said they'd like to see. People had a tremendous amount of creative and interesting suggestions as to committees that could be formed, fundraisers that could occur, benefit concerts that could be put on, consciousness-raising workshops, etc. Reverend Sean wrote them all down on the board and then turned to the congregation and said, okay, how are we going to do this? One member of the congregation gave a diatribe on how a certain committee should be formed and how it should be run. When Reverend Sean asked her if she was willing to take responsibility for this, she said, no, I don't have the time. Reverend Sean's succinct answer, and any of you who have met him know that he is very succinct. If you don't have the time to either do it yourself or see to it that the right people are put together to get it done, we're not interested in your bringing it up. This congregant left the church and has never been back. But what began to happen as a result of this exchange was that the consciousness of the congregation began to shift from one of the church has to do things for me to this is my church. A church is the people in it, not the building, not the minister, but a group of people who form it. The rule became that if you wanted to see something done and brought it up, it was your responsibility to either get it done or to spearhead getting it done by taking responsibility for asking people who could get it done to do it or form a committee to do it. That's what you did. Let's see. Gradually, people who were not interested in taking this kind of responsibility fell away, and a flock of new people began to show up to join the core group that was willing to not only have ideas, but to make them happen. Today, the church is a thriving, successful, financially viable community of people who feel very connected to each other and are very confident in their ability to together make things happen. There is tremendous friendship, passion, and yes, kindness among the congregation, as they have learned it's not enough to talk about it. You have to do it yourself or in some way see that it gets done. And so it's very clear to me that that's the community I walked into when I came down here. You guys clearly understand that, and it makes the hugest difference. I mean, I find at our church, I say this all the time, there are probably 20 people I could call at 3 in the morning if I needed something, and that is amazing. And that is what you, and I even say we, I'm part of this church. I'm here, I am part of the consciousness of this church. So in this book, I have all sorts of stories about all the different ways in which kindness can be manifested. One of the things about kindness that is crucial, which we touched on a little bit already, but is kindness, it is kind to accept life on its own terms. It is kind to accept people on their own terms, to see people exactly what they are. In fact, to me, that is the definition of love. When we say we are loved by God exactly as we are, that's what it means. It's not, oh, I love you. It's, I see you exactly as you are. Years ago, my father and I had a lot of problems when I was growing up. And years ago, I was talking to him as an adult, and I was saying some of the things that had happened. And he said, what do you want me to say? You want me to apologize? I said, no. He said, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to say one word. And he said, what's that? And I said, oh. I just want you to go, oh, this was your experience. This was what happened. Doesn't have to change, doesn't have to be different, doesn't have to. To me, that's the definition of love. And so what happens is when we're not being kind, we are trying to control things. The song starts with so many things we can't control. And we think that we can control things. One of my favorite things to say when someone says, I finally decided to give up control is, you had it? I mean, there are so many things that happen in the world at large, in our life, in our bodies, illnesses, also bodily processes that we don't control. I like to say to people here, eat this piece of food, and I want you to decide how much amino acid you're going to secrete in order to digest it. And they say, well, you're crazy. And I say, well, why do you think that's crazy, but it's not crazy to try to control someone else's drinking or try and get someone else to feel differently or try to make something happen that doesn't want to happen? It's all when we can let go of control or of the illusion of control, then we let God come in. Then we let higher power. So I say to someone, can you make your heart rate speed up? And they say no, and I say, I can. Because God, whatever that is, call it God, I call God the infinite possibilities and the way the universe functions, automatically does that. And I say, literally, thank God I don't have to take care of that. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to control that. So there are lots of stories in the book about different things. A couple of my favorites are, my friend Mitchell has something called kamikaze drive-by prayer, which I suggest you try. You wake up in the morning, you think of someone who could use your prayers, someone you love, someone who's in need or whatever, and you just pray all out for them all day without them knowing it. And then just give them a call at night and say, how was your day? And it's amazing what happens often when we do that. There's another story that I love, which falls under the chapter, Nobody Really Wants to Fight. There's quite a famous story of during World War I, the German troops were in these bunkers, and the Americans were here across the field. The dead bodies were on the field, and they had been fighting. It was Christmas Eve. And suddenly they saw a candlelight from the other side, and someone held up a sign, we won't fight if you don't fight. And then the others held up a sign, and they all these soldiers on opposite sides walked out into the field. They buried the dead. They exchanged supplies and gifts. They sang songs. They played soccer. And so you realize that there's some thought in the country or in people's minds that we have an enemy, but the actual people who are doing the fighting didn't have that thought at all. And to know that we can only, if we are all in an uproar about politics, it is not about the politicians. It's just reflecting where we feel helpless or we feel angry. We tend to, if we're not aware that it's our thought, we gravitate to difficulties in other people. We gravitate to trouble because it takes us away from the discomfort of holding our own thoughts. One of my favorite stories about that is my grandmother, my mother, and I had the same housekeeper at one point. I lived in New York on the West Side. My grandmother lived near my mother. And one day I said to Ida, how's Nana doing? And she said, oh, she was depressed. Then your mother got sick, and whoo, she perked right up. It's like, good, give me something to. But it's because my grandmother had fears in herself that she couldn't own. So she looked to the outside for them. And when you look, if you understand the world as a mirror, see, if I'm looking in a mirror and I go, I am not moving until you move. It can't move. It's not that it doesn't want to. It can't. When the dog barks at the mirror, if that dog barking at it. When I have my fists up and I say to the mirror, you take your fists down first. It can't. It can't do it. But when I realize all I have to do, because remember, a mirror, you don't have to do anything to get a mirror to move. You don't have to send something into the mirror. It's just there reflecting you. So as we look out in the world, if we see unkindness, it is our unkindness that we're seeing. And when we really, it's an interesting way to walk around the world. So any disaster you have, any problem you have, a problem, we create a problem because we don't want to feel our sensations. So I say this in thought exchange, it's not fun. If you solved all your problems, you would feel all the discomfort that you were hiding with your problem. So this afternoon, we're going to work on, if you have a problem, if you have an issue, if you have something you think is bothering you, we're going to describe the problem. Anyone who wants to talk, talks. Don't have to. I'll describe the principles of thought exchange, and then we will ask you, what are you thinking? And some people say, no, I'm totally positive. That's like looking in the mirror and saying, I don't weigh that. I'm not wearing this brown jacket. I don't know why that mirror is reflecting it. There's something. The mirror also never goes, I'm not reflecting that. You look terrible. It can't help but reflect whatever's in front of it. So we're going to do that, and then tomorrow evening at 7, we're going to do a workshop called Your Inner Voice, in which we apply these principles to singing. People get up and sing, and professional singers will be there, and also people who've never sung in their lives. And you get up and sing, and I hear you sing, and I immediately know what you think about your singing. And then we ask you to take on a new thought about your singing. So when I'm singing here, you know, I'm pretty tired, and I traveled, and I sang for 2.5 hours. I'm like, every moment I am exchanging my thought. I am not working on, so my voice shakes. I go, oh, I think my voice is shaky. Go, every moment. And so what we do is, you take on a new thought, and you feel the discomfort of thinking, hey, I can sing, and you sing. Your life changes by it. So I hope you'll join us for those. I mean, I'm so delighted to be here. I've just been having a wonderful time with you guys, and it's been about, I don't know, it's probably been 7 years or so since I've been down here. And I'm thrilled that we set up this weekend with all these different things for me to do. And we're going to close the talk. There was a wonderful singer, I talked about her last night, named Nancy Lamott, who I had the privilege of writing a lot of songs for and producing her albums. And Nancy passed at the age of 43, 21 years ago, much to our surprise. But the song We Can Be Kind was written for Nancy. And when we put out the book, I had our videographer create a video with Nancy singing the song. And it's about all the issues that we're facing in terms of unkindness and all the examples of kindness. So we treat it as a meditation on kindness. Enjoy the video, and thank you for having me today.
So many things we can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, then what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hand. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it, you and I, do or die. We've got to try to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be
Wow. Mr. Friedman, thank you so much. Nobody told me this was going to be a 2 Kleenex Sunday when I took this gig, but you have opened and connected us all. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And this is our community. We are open and connected. And if you want to join our community, we hope that we have some folks here for the first time who maybe would be interested in that. If you are here for the first time, raise your hand. And we have ushers come by, keep them up with a welcome packet so we can get to know you and you can get to know us a little bit.
Or if
what?
Or if they haven't been here in years. Yes.
Thank you. A little coaching from Sir James.
And this is the time in our service when we have an opportunity to give back. And so would you join with me as our ushers come forward and saying our offertory blessing? Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother, God.
Woo! The band has it going on. So we hope you all have filled out your board applications and you're planning on dropping them off on your way out today. If you have any questions, stop by the next desk about that. Marcia Mead should be there.
Also, during this month, please bring your gently used clothing, shoes, etc., that will be donated. And my understanding is at the end of the month, we will have a fashion show.
Yes, with James as our MC.
Yes, yes.
Enlighten Cafe is this Wednesday. Majana Mason, our very own, will be talking about angels, guides, and spirits. Oh my. And they do have a meal now in the cafe. If you want a meal to be waiting for you when you get off work and just come here, sign up in the hallway for that. There are vegetarian and gluten-free options always available for that.
The other thing we want to remind you of, and you spoke about, where did they? There is a workshop this afternoon and a workshop tomorrow night, and I hope that you will be here for both of those. And if you're forgetting any of this, just go look it up in that extraordinary bulletin. Thank you so much for what you did on that. And I will tell you, if you were as touched by that last video as I was, I asked James and I mentioned to David, it will be on our website. I invite you to do as I intend to do, and that is you download that video and put it on your Facebook page.
The Goddess Project is going to be this Friday. It's a spiritual movie night with Eric hosting, and The Goddess Project is a documentary that covers the lives of several amazing women who are living the life of their dreams. They've put down their fear and have moved on, so it's supposed to be a really fun night.
So would you stand and join us now? We forgot.
Special announcement.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, there is one more announcement. For those of you who do not know, James and Tyler are flying out this afternoon, and they will be married on Wednesday.
Thank you. Not on the airplane. Not on the airplane, but a mountain in Vail. So just come and join us and be a part of it. But we'll be back by next Sunday.
And so, with that said, let's give them our unity blessing. Tyler and James, we love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the Christ you are. Amen.